Hey Construction World, Lindsay here from Oryx Care. Welcome back to another OryxTalks where we discuss all things construction. We have one goal here, and that's to provide actual solutions to the issues surrounding the construction industry. Whether it's people, production, or equipment, we have the solutions to help you build a better project. This week I'm back with my friend Rob from the Mind Your Head podcast. Rob and I get together every month to discuss the trends we see in the industry regarding mental health and what's being done to lower the negative statistics that surround this massive worldwide problem. I hope you enjoy this episode and that it brings some value to your construction world.
On Friday over here, it's Suicide Awareness Day, and then I can't remember the date in October, but there's World Mental Health Day in October.
Yeah, that's right.
So everybody will be jumping on the bandwagon for that, and then you're back to forgetting about it the day after.
Yeah.
So there's absolutely no point. Do you know what? Right, I used to say there's no point, and it used to annoy me that people, before I started doing all this sort of work, could ring me up for my opinion on them days. And I guess it's them wanting to do something about it, but not knowing how to do something about it.
Yeah.
But as soon as the day or the week passes, that's it. It's never thought about again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that continuation and people buying into the way of thinking and I want to say lifestyle. It's not a lifestyle. The culture of looking after staff and looking after people that work with them and making it an easy environment to come forward and say that I am struggling or I don't understand this or anything like that. And people are showing, but like I say, it used to annoy me, but now I sort of play them at their own game. I don't know if that's the right word to say, but I'm like, yeah, absolutely, we can do this, and that I'll use it on our page. And if they are a big construction company, then it's exposure for the podcast and everything that the podcast stands for. And so it can be used both ways, I guess.
Yeah, I'm with you. It gets a little I was just actually having this conversation with my mom earlier. The trend stuff gets really old. Everybody jumping on bandwagons just because everybody else is doing it, and then there's no follow-up. There's no, they just want to look like they're doing something, and that stuff really bugs me. But I do tell myself it's better that they're talking about it than not talking about it at all. Still, you got to take what you can get at this point. But yeah, I'm with you. It's if people want to talk about it, that's great. I would just like to see some more action, but
backing up what they're saying.
And I just maybe we're just not quite there yet, as a whole. It's just going to take some more time and awareness and all that stuff to get people to see. Unfortunately, with this sort of stuff, something bad has to happen before anybody really takes concrete steps to fix the problem, which is sad to think about. But
like a lot of if you put it into health and safety perspective, a lot of the procedures that we have to do on sites and job sites now is because of an accident previous, and learning from the mistakes. And people seem to understand when it's a physical thing like that, when a piece of plant ran somebody over, or a trench has collapsed, or scaffolding's fallen, whatever it might be. People seem to understand that because I think it's a physical thing. But when you've got several members of your staff going off with stress, anxiety, depression, burnout, because they can't physically see it, they just think that Lindsay's tired or Rob's tired. They just need a few days off and they'll come back to it. When me and you both know that that's not the answer. It's the environments that they're working in. If we can change those environments and change the culture, or build a culture of better working environments, it can only be a good thing. And you're less likely for people to go off with stress, anxiety, depression. If they're working in a better environment for them and a better environment for the employer.
Yeah, I agree. It's a culture as a whole thing, and you just kind of said something interesting there where you said to change the culture, but then you change yourself to build the culture, because you're right, there really isn't that. There's never really been that culture.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really is just, you are really starting from square one with this mental health stuff, because it's never been a focus, or really, I mean, even from last year, this year, it was almost non-existent at the beginning of last year. There was some, like, you could find some statistics on it and things like that, but now I just see it pretty much all of this year. I've just seen it completely change, and there's a lot of people talking about it and wanting to do things about it. Well, saying they want to do things about it.
Again, that used to annoy me, that people were only doing it because it's in the news, but now I flip that on its head and think, right, okay, let's do something, and then give them that little bit of information, and hopefully that can spark something inside them, and then have the ripple effect, and they can then go forward. But again, even if it is only for a few days a year, it's better than it was.
It's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing, and it's better than it was a few years ago. And hopefully we can keep building the culture, and it slowly changes. And I think it's a lot of small voices like myself and you, Lindsay, and all the other people that we do bits with, that could all turn it into a big voice, and the noise of a big crowd can be heard from a long way away. And hopefully we can do that with building the awareness.
Just keep doing what we're doing, and the more I do it, I just see the potential for it, just all the different things you could do, and make it really specific to the industry, and not just another run-of-the-mill, send them to this program and forget about them. Just make things really specific to, because I think that's what the industry needs and what the people deserve. I think that it's such a unique environment that they work in, that that you guys work in, that it calls for unique action and unique services. And that's my goal, and I know that's your goal too, is to create things that will actually help and not just fall by the wayside a year from now.
Absolutely. And it needs to be refreshed and updated quite often, and quite a lot, as we learn more, as we understand more, and come up with better solutions for problems that are related to the industry. Because things that work for, say, a pipe laying company might not necessarily work for a M&E company, mechanical electrical company. And that's the same with the health and safety strategies and policies that companies have. The big players will have quite a robust policy probably, whereas the smaller local general contractors, one-man bands, probably haven't got anything in place in both senses of the word, the health and safety and the mental health and well-being policies. But hopefully we can give them that little insight.
And the more I do it, the more I learn and think of new ideas. And I started talking to Valerie with the nutrition side of it. And it's not my thing, but I know what I do for myself to stay healthy and things like that, but I've never thought, how could that play a role in what we're trying to do? And then I have a few conversations with Val, and I'm like, she's so knowledgeable on that stuff, but also on the industry because her husband's in the industry. And then her and I start bouncing ideas off of each other, and then she gets her thinking cap on, and she realizes that she has a lot to offer too in this area. So the more you do this, the more you find the right players and the good ideas and the stuff that will make the real change.
I spoke to a guy called Jamie Usher, who lives in Victoria in Australia, and he used to fit like cut glass shower screens and splashbacks for kitchens and that sort of thing. But his sight deteriorated, nothing to do with work. It was something to do with the dressing. But he's lost 90% of his vision now. And we were just chatting in general, and I mentioned Mackey's, going to Mackey's on the way into work, eating crap, fueling your body with crap. And he's like, I used to do that all the time in Australia. I used to go up, have loads of coffee, get a Mackey's on the way into work, and then be full on working. And you're lifting heavy things, you're active, you're moving about, and you're not fueling your body properly. So nutrition plays a huge part in it. And
it does.
If you put crap fuel in your car, it's going to run crap. And if you put crap fuel in your body, rubbish fuel in your body, so fast food, and it's
gas
not going to
station
run
food.
right.
Gas station, your thing sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that when I'm traveling a little bit, just grabbing,
I am.
Red Bull's my vice when I'm traveling, is I grab a Red Bull to stay awake, and that stuff's just terrible for you.
Yeah, it is, and it's easy. It goes back to what we spoke about. Was it in the second episode about coming out of your comfort zone?
Yeah.
It's very easy to fall back into those routines of, I'll just do that because it's easy, and I'll just do this because it's easy. But if you want something, you've got to work for it sometimes. And again, that can be on the flip side, that you can then overdo it. And then you start suffering at the other end of it. So it's very important to get the balance. So if it is work, like with me, it was work, because I thought I had to work, and that's what I wanted to do to better my life. And I just went all guns blazing all the way into it, and it ended up being my downfall. And it took me a long time, and I still struggle with it now, to switch off. Even before we started recording, I was on another call doing work and things like that, and then I just finished on building on site, and I've come home and I've had to do a load of things. And I sat here before I connected you and thought, stop it. You're doing too much, you're pushing yourself too far, you're slipping back into your old routines. So I scribbled on a pad, wrote a list of what I needed to do, prioritize, and I'll finish it off, but I'll prioritize what's the most important, what needs all my energy, and when. And then it allows me to plan my day, or my week, or my month, or whatever it might be. And I'm turning a lot of work down on the building side of things. I'm turning a lot of work down, not because I can't do it. Not because I don't want to do it. It's because I don't want to stress myself out with taking too much on, but not committing to something that I can't do, which then puts stress on myself, and then it turns into a vicious circle of worry all the time. And people bringing your phone and emailing you, and where are you? You said you'd be here at this time, and having a lot of jobs here, there, and everywhere, and you can be a busy fool running around everywhere and not achieving anything.
Everything has a price too. I think we do get caught up in, well, I have to do this because this is money, I can't turn this down. But then the price of that is your sanity and your well-being, and your family, and all of those things. So it all has a price in some way. So I don't see anything wrong with saying no. Saying no is something I struggle with, and something I've really had to work on. Saying no to things I don't want to do, and not even just the things I don't want to do, but the things that just make me crazy, the people or the places, and I've just always been the type of I'm a people pleaser, so I don't ever want to say no. And then you get to this point where you just realize you're so torn, you're so pulled in 85 different directions all the time, and none of those things are actually making you happy. And it leads you down some pretty dark, lonely roads. And then you end up sitting there like, I'm doing all this stuff for all these people, and if I had a problem right now, who could I call? And generally it's
not the short,
the list is pretty short of who would actually return the favor. And that's pretty eye-opening when you do start to, and saying no is a good thing.
It definitely is a good thing, and I mean, you don't have to be as direct as no.
Yeah.
You can say something along the lines of, yeah, absolutely, I can do this work, but I haven't got the capacity at the minute. So if you'd like to come back to me in X amount of time, we could relook at it and see where we can fit it in. Or looking at my diary now, my next available appointment space is December, for instance. So it's learning to come up with the techniques that
communicating that effectively without, you don't have to be a jerk about it by any means, but it's just being able to communicate that in a way that gets your point across, and you're also not sacrificing your sanity in the meantime trying to do it all.
Yeah, and that's it. And people 9 times out of 10 are better with you for it because they know where they stand. You know they're not going to get messed around. And if you say you're going to be 6 months time, then they know not to bother you till closer to that time.
I have a really good friend, and it's actually my best friend's husband. But I'm really close with AJ as well. And he told me, it was just yesterday, actually, I went out there and he was telling me something about how I have a notorious habit of saying maybe when I really want to say no. And like when I don't want to go do something or whatever, and he says, just tell me no. He's like, I'd rather you just tell me no. He's like, because if you tell me maybe when I know you want to say no and then you bail last minute, then I'm mad.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
And I'm like, yeah, I probably should do that. But I just so badly want to please everybody, it's it's a bad habit.
it takes time, but it gets easier.
For sure.
I'm still catch myself out going, right, all right, and then I'll think about go, no, can't. I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah.
And that, like, especially like if you're on small private domestic jobs, you could have give the customer a price to do whatever it might be, hang the door or whatever. They'll say to you, oh, while you're here, can you just do this, this, and this? And I used to, a lot of the time, I used to go, yeah, okay. But now I'm like, I can do that for you, but there is a cost involved. Not a big cost, but there's going to be, and that was very difficult for me to do because I didn't want to feel like a jerk thinking, oh, he's out charging money. But if you look at it, you think, oh, I'm just in the supermarket. I bought £60, $75 worth of food. Can I have this and this for free? They won't do it, would they?
No. Yeah. It's funny, as you were saying that, I know my dad and then one other guy I know that works in the industry, and they're both two very different people. And my dad has a tendency of, like, I definitely get that trait from him where he has a hard time telling people no. And especially the guys that work for him, he'll just do it for them instead of kind of it's just easier for him, I think. Where then the other friend of mine I know, he's also a superintendent, and I've actually heard him tell people, like, don't put your to-do list on mine. This I'm like, he sets very clear boundaries with people, and he never takes work home with him. If I talk to him or whatever in the evenings, he's never sitting around stressing about work. Because he's able to delegate, and he has boundaries where my dad doesn't really. And he's always kind of ruminating about the next day, having all this stuff to do and not having the time. And so it's they're both very much hard workers and good at their job. It's just two completely different approaches and how it affects their mood when they go home.
Just because you're setting boundaries for yourself and you're saying, right, I finish work at 5 o'clock and then that's it. You're not a bad worker. You're not lazy. You're not. I don't know. I can't remember the word I was thinking of, but it means you've set a boundary for yourself, and that time is that time, and you wouldn't feel bad for not going out and going to the park for a run or whatever with your friends. You'll set that time aside. Right, I want to run for an hour. You'll run for an hour, and if you don't run for an hour and a half, you're not going to feel bad for yourself, are you? Because you've set that boundary of an hour. And that's exactly the same for work. And I think some workplaces try and instill that you have to give more and give more and give more to be seen.
But they never want to give more.
Exactly. And if you work in environments like that, they tend to not want to contribute back to you. And ultimately, we've said it before, haven't we, that if you die at work from a heart attack, from stress, from taking your own life, your job will be filled, or there'll be an advert out for your job before you're even in the ground, or whichever way.
Oh yeah.
So, and it's a very sad fact, and people need to understand that working for somebody is they're just renting your time, and it's not it's not that employees are bad, and we're not saying don't go out and work. So absolutely go out and work, but set the boundary. If you work for a great company and you do get looked after, then do that little bit of extra. But if you're working for somebody that is just
taking,
yeah, that's it. It's,
and I feel like it's definitely, that's more common to take, and not, you know, I don't see a lot of I guess incentive to give, you know, for people to go. No, so I'm sure some companies too, but I don't really see, I guess I don't see it often, but yeah, you do. And it everybody seems to get in that, and not even just in the construction industry, that they like work owns them. I mean, I used to like have to do work that I didn't get paid and still feel like I had to do way more than I was supposed to do, because I just, oh, that's the right thing to do. They need me here.
Yeah. And I think,
you know,
it can get too much for people, and people can get stuck and don't understand how to get themselves out of that.
Yeah. You just, and then the deeper you go, you just get so you're just so lost and buried, and you don't know which way's up anymore. And
exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, that's where this stuff is so important. Like
so
getting the word out.
I've got a positive story for you. So an individual that I've worked with, I spoke to him maybe a year ago, something like that. Rang him up just to do with work. I just got a bad vibe off him over the phone. I thought something's right with him. Asked him, and he just went, "Yeah, I'm all right, like everybody does." Started talking about nothing. When I knew there was something wrong, I started trying to keep him on the phone to try and eke a bit more of a conversation out of him. And I eventually got him, when I asked him again, I said, "Are you really all right? You sound a bit rough." I blamed it on beer. I said, you've been out on the beer?" He's like, "Oh, no, I've got other things going on." I was like, "All right." And then I said, "Well, I've got this problem at the minute." Showed a bit of vulnerability, and then he started to open up, tell me what was going on. He didn't tell me everything, because he didn't understand what was going on. And he then spoke to me for about an hour and a half on the phone. We chatted back and forth. I suggested going and seeing his GP, his doctor, which he didn't at first. But after a couple more conversations with him, he did. He's now, they put him on antidepressants, which it's gone up and down, but now I think they seem to have got the right dose for him. And it's taken, I'd say the best part of a year of, over that year, we've probably spoke about it 7 or 8 times on a real serious level. And each time the conversations become more positive. And then there was a dip, but when he had the dip, he understood that it was just a blip, and he was on the way out and back up to being the person that he is. And he's now, I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, and he rang me up to thank me, which he didn't have to do, but he's now gone from somebody who totally dismissed mental health and totally didn't want anything to do with it, because he knew the stigma that was attached to it within the industry, to now being somebody who openly talks about it, who openly promotes it, and he is excelling at work now because
that's excellent.
He's got the help he needed. Excuse me. He's now accepted talking therapy and CBT. And when we very first started talking about it, it's like, I don't want to go and talk to somebody because they don't know who I am, and they
so
as soon as I walk out the door, they're going to forget about me. And I said to him, that's the whole point. That's the whole point. You can, I said to him, think about it, going and offloading, dumping everything that is eating you up inside and causing these problems. You can go and speak to a professional who is trained to help you through that time and help you understand what you're feeling and what you need to do to better yourself. And at the very first conversation, he was really dismissive of it. No. And now he's like, I'm really looking forward to it. I don't understand the CBT, so I just ran through and I said they'll train you to think differently and think positively, and little steps to get you back into a normal routine. And when you feel it slipping, you can use the CBT training that you've had to prompt yourself to get into a better position. Yeah. And now he's lowered his medication. He's trying to quit smoking. He's still not there with that. He says that is not a priority for him at the minute. His priority is to get himself back to where he needs to be, and then he's going to therapy. And then he's going to look at quitting smoking. But it just goes to show in those 6 or 7 conversations that I had with him and the time that lapsed in there that he's realizing all these things. And he said to me that the quote that I remember the most to him, he does a lot of full contact sport, so boxing, MMA stuff, all that type of thing. His nose is all over his face, and he looks like he's had a few rounds anyway.
Real tough guy.
He's a tough guy, yeah. And he said he's been punched and hit numerous amount of times. He says nothing has ever hit him as hard as life. And when he came to the realization of that, and he knew he had to accept it, it has totally changed his view and everything. And he is now out there spreading the word for us and telling people about what it's all about. He wouldn't have the confidence to stand in front of a load of people and talk about it, but what he will do now is say, if you're feeling like that, go and speak to Rob, go and speak to Lindsay, go and speak to whoever. They are out there to help, and that's ultimately what it is get people talking, get them to understand that they need a little bit of support, which then I can send them to yourself, Lindsay, and they can then come and see you and get that support that they need. Get that understanding and get the knowledge.
That's really great. I love hearing positive stories like that. I was thinking of a few things when you were talking. I think it's a common everybody's hesitant to get help, and I totally understand that. But there's a lot of misconceptions that come along with actually getting help. Going to someone you don't know. That's a positive that you don't know them. You want somebody neutral, but I think people underestimate too how profound of an effect that people like that have on people like me. I still remember a lot of my old clients' names and what they struggled with, and the secrets they told me that they never told anybody else. Like, that stuff is really important to me, and that pushes me to do this stuff. People have a bigger effect on mental health professionals and we care a lot more than what people think. We're trained to stay very neutral and very, I shouldn't say emotionally unattached, because it's impossible to not feel emotional about it. I don't care who you are. Like, there's going to be clients who shake you. But that's a really common misconception, and definitely something I would want to correct people's thinking on is that's just not true. You know, like them not knowing you is a good thing, but the way most people think of it is they don't know, so how could they possibly care or understand? It's the opposite. You know, we really do care. You know, that it does have an effect, and we do go home and think about, how can I help this person? You know, that's just, it's how we're all built. It's why we all do what we do. So,
and he's now got to that point and accepting it, and now he's starting his therapy. I think he's probably started it now, because it's been a few weeks since I spoke to him last.
That's really great.
Over that time as well, I never bombarded him with things. I never bombarded him with questions. We spoke about several work things, and I never mentioned it. When I only mentioned it when I knew the time was right. And that comes because people say to me all the time, well, how do you know? I'm like, I don't know, maybe I've got a sixth sense for it, but I tend to know when to ask the questions and when not to ask them. But that
being
just
able
comes
to
with
read
time.
people, but
it comes with time. And like I say to the people that I do training with that are on sites or running sites, from my point of view, we're not there to cure them, because there's professionals like yourself that's your job to do. We're just that first step on the ladder,
bridge, which is so important, though. You're just
we can say, look, go and speak to Lindsay, go and speak to whoever, and they are the people that can help you and get you through this. I can support you all the way through it, and be another opinion for you to come and listen to or vent to, but they are the people that will help you. They are the professionals. I can tell you about bricks and blocks all day long. But
your work is so important too, though, you know, because you're just bridging the gap where you know, like, you're with people who might be struggling all the time, and I rarely get to come in contact with them. So I mean, I would love to be able to do that, but I'm not on job sites all the time. So you know what, your work is so important. So definitely don't undersell it. But and you're breaking down that stigma where, you know, I definitely get caught up in the more technical stuff, like okay, what service can I design for this, you know, and things like that, where you're doing such a good job breaking down that stigma and also coming up with unique approaches to help too. So the work you're doing is so important. But that's a really great story. I'm glad it worked out.
Thank you. It really was, and it made me feel very proud. And after we spoke, it was like we had a bit of to and fro in, having a laugh with each other, and then I was like, right, see you later, I've got to go, and I hung up on it. But I did it on very abruptly on purpose. And that's what for me, that's what it's all about. It's just right. You've got that. You've had this. We've worked on it. We've got you. You're getting through it. Now let's go back to being how you were before it, because it'll never ever go away. You are going to have this for the rest of your life because of what he was going through. But you can now live with it, and it doesn't define you. It is just part of what you deal with on your daily basis.
I had a very similar conversation last night with a family member, actually, who's kind of going through some stuff at the moment, and he started seeing a therapist a couple weeks ago for some anger management stuff. He's having some pretty he's overreacting to situations that don't warrant the reaction. And he was really upset because he found out, he was told what they diagnosed him with. He was really upset about it. And I was telling him, I was like, it doesn't matter. This stuff doesn't have to define you. You're in a position right now where you can choose one of two directions. You can stay angry about it and continue to have these outbursts, or you can go the other direction and fix it. It's balls 100% in your court what you get to do. He's young. I'm like, this doesn't have to define the rest of your life. It's 100% in your control. We all have our stuff. I mean, every single one of us has our stuff. It's whether or not we're going to let that consume us and control us, or we're going to change it. And I told him, I was like, it's something you're probably going to have to stay mindful of forever.
Yeah.
But deal with it now while you're young and you don't have, he doesn't have a wife or kids or anybody.
And then it just becomes part of your routine.
So
I seen an interesting post on Instagram today that somebody put on saying, is your mindfulness that you do, or your mental health routine, do you do it in the morning or do you do it at night? And I replied to it saying, I do it when I need it, when I feel I need it. I don't have a set routine that I open my eyes at 6 o'clock in the morning, or it's usually whatever time the kids get up. But and I don't particularly do anything straight away. But if I feel a bit crappy or feel that something's worrying me, now I'll just talk about it instead of going, I'll ignore it. But I'll go and do something that I want to do. And then I use that as a coping mechanism within the day. But I don't have a set routine at 9 o'clock. I'm going to go and do mindful exercises or meditation. I don't do meditation anyway, but it's as and when, and it'll always be there. And it ups and downs, dips and flows, and some days it could be worse, and sometimes it could be better. And sometimes I just ride the wave and think, right, today's going to be a bad day. But they're getting less and less now. I'm like, give it a rest, come on. And it's the more the positive thinking that I might be shitty for an hour, but after that, because I am in a better place and I am thinking more positively, that time passes and it just becomes a normal day. I don't let it beat me. Like, I used to have things where I'd leave for work, and I remember one particular day I was getting up early, leaving to work, and I made a coffee. I didn't boil the kettle, and I just poured cold water into the travel mug that I had. Got in, driving down the motorway. I thought, oh, I'll have a bit of a drink. Drank it, and it was freezing. And I was like, and that was it. I was like, right, the rest of my day is going to be crappy. And it did. It turned out crappy the rest of the day. And now, if that happened to me, I'd be annoyed with myself, but I'll be like, oh well, it's happened. And
I get that. I have a bad habit of that too. Like, my day's it's just one of those days, and then it doesn't have. But when you go into the rest of your day with that negative mindset, then you're only going to look for the negative stuff. You know, like it's maybe you were meant to spill the hot coffee all over you that morning. Like that's how I that's how I when something like that happens. Well, maybe there was a reason this had to happen. This had to go wrong today, or whatever. And I just kind of changed my thinking. Like maybe I got stuck behind that slow car that that drives me crazy because I was going to get hit up the road. Or so, and I just choose to think of things out. And it may sound like goofy, but it helps. Like just changing the way just shifting your thinking just can shift your whole day.
Absolutely.
But I have that habit too of just getting like sucked into negative thinking, and it's just a downward spiral from there, for the whole day.
Once you get into those positive thinking and routines, those days get less and less and less. And
they do.
When you do get
you start looking for the positives, and you're not looking for the negatives all the time. And it just becomes so much easier, and you just start appreciating the small things. Like when I used to go on bike rides, my mind would be racing all the time. And we have a bike trail right by here, and I'll ride 10 miles or so. And my mind would just race all the time. Like, oh, I should be doing this, or what if this happens? And now I just ride and turn on a podcast, and I'm like, oh, the trees are really green today. It's so pretty out. I just it's peaceful. Like, it's just, I'm not doing anything different. It's, still just riding my bike. It's just how
it's allowing yourself to stop. It's allowing yourself to slow down, giving yourself permission to have the time off. It doesn't have to be work all the time that you're thinking of. There might be something stressful going on in your life. A family member could be ill, or financial problems, but you need to give yourself that time of switching off and go and doing things and go and appreciating things and living in the moment and not feeling guilty for not working, not dealing with that problem.
Yeah.
But I can guarantee you'll come back and you'll feel 100 times better, and you'll be clearer and more focused to think about whatever's worrying you. And sometimes,
and then you're just forcing it too. If you're, you know, if you're forcing yourself to work, and it just leads to nowhere good. You know, if you can just come at something with a fresh mindset, and I do it all the time now. You know, I work from home. The other day I was editing a video, one that Chris and I did, and iMovie was just lagging so bad. And it's that for some reason, that's just something I get really impatient about. So as soon as I heard my computer like start to like amp up and the fan kick on and all that, I would just get up and walk away, and I'd go do something else for a while, or like went and mowed the lawn just to get away from it before it like became one of those things that just drove me up the wall the rest of the afternoon.
So there you go. That going and mowing the lawn is a task that you can do by pretty much switching your mind off.
Yes.
It's an event where a task that you can see you've achieved something.
Yeah, start to finish pretty.
And you don't have to put a lot of thought into it as such. And I think I've said it on these talks before. I've definitely said it on the podcast before. I'll go and do and sweep a floor. So if I'm getting bombarded with phone calls, emails, people wanting my attention, I'll tell them all to do, or I'll sneak off and I'll go and sweep up or do a task that I can do without using my brain to do much. And it gives my mind time to rest. And then I can come back and it's like a quick recharge.
I'm like that too. Like, surprisingly, I'm a hands-on person. You know, I've always I'm outdoor. Like I like to be outside. I don't mind getting dirty, any of that stuff. And when I was in grad school, my family owned a dirt racetrack for a long time, and I did all the grounds work there for the whole. It sits on a fairgrounds, and I did it for the majority of the facility. But during the time, I was also in school, in graduate, well, some of my undergrad and graduate school. And then, so I was doing that. And then I was also working at my stepdad's parts store, delivering car parts too. So I was doing but seems like a lot, but just that switch up, you know, like I would get up in the morning and I would study for a while or write a paper. And then I'd go and I'd work at the racetrack. And that was just all brainless work for me.
Yeah.
And then it kind of allowed me to turn off. And then when I came back home, I was able to go back to work and be productive. Or, you know, it was the next day I was a little bit all over the place during that time, but for that point in my life, it was helpful.
That was probably
to not get so consumed.
It was the beginning of your understanding of why you were doing those tasks. And although it seems a bit chaotic back then thinking about it, it gave you the training without you realizing to focus yourself now. And
exactly. But just those times where you can go do something to turn off, and like starting a task and seeing that it finish is just it's rewarding.
It is
way more rewarding than sometimes sitting at your computer just like racking your brain, not getting anywhere.
When I was probably at my worst, I used to sit and fantasize about working in a supermarket, just stacking shelves, or doing something completely different that I thought I like mowing the lawn, go and get a job mowing a lawn, or go and doing something that was totally different to what I was doing, and two, that I could do without thinking too much. And now looking back, that's obviously my mind, my brain screaming at me to say, I need a break. I need a break. And I did a podcast last week or the week before with a guy called Chris who runs his own construction company. They do about £3 million a year, so they're a fair size. And he says he does exactly the same, and it reminded me, and I'm like, that was me 3 or 4 years ago, and I've made these positive changes to what I need to do. And he says, yeah, but if I did that, what would I do? It's like, well, I focus my energy on other things now, like the podcast, like raising awareness, like going and giving talks and going into companies and training, giving them training and things like that. I've now focused myself on that. And I said, it's took a lot of understanding on my part, and being strict with myself not to overdo it and not to do too much and not to bury myself too much into something, because if I'm really bad for, if I want to do that, I'll go and do it, and I'll put all my effort into it, all in, and people can fall by the wayside. That's what I used to be like. Whereas now I'm like, right, I want to do this task, but now I plan it a bit better. I'll give it this much time, that much time, and make it all work. And then that allows me to see my wife, kids, friends, family, do other things. Because if you do the same thing over and over and over again, when it gets repetitive until you get sick of it, and when you're sick of it, you cut corners and you rush, and you don't produce the best quality that you know you can produce. And that's the point Chris is at now. His company's flying and doing really, really well, but he's consuming him, and he's trying to balance the two. And I totally get it. If you've got, I think he's got 60 plus people that work for him, and 30 plus fans on the road, and everything else that goes with it, and all the administration. If you switch off for 5 minutes, it can all go up in flames. I get that, but it's learning to come home at a decent time, and learning to interact with your family, because he said his wife and his kids get 3% of him, because it's the business has had the other 97% of him all the time, and he comes home and he says, I'll just sit on the sofa and most of the time fall asleep. And I used to get annoyed with Louise. I used to come in from work, because I'd be exactly the same. I'd be 3 hours late, 4 hours late from when I should have been coming home. And I'd get in and she'd ask me the simplest things like, do you want to go to your mum and dad's house at a certain time, or shall we book a holiday, or shall we do something? And I used to turn around and I say to her, look, I've been making decisions all day. You make a decision, you sort it out, because I don't care. And I used to be very abrupt and like that, and I think it took me a long time to catch myself doing it. And don't get me wrong, I can't, when I'm tired, I'm horrible. I can get like that. But I'm noticing it more in myself. I might snap and go, sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't
catch it quicker. Yeah.
I catch it quicker, and it's learning to understand that side of things as well, because it can be,
and understanding where the other person's coming from too. And literally every man I talk to that's been in the industry a long time has a similar story to that. You know, with their wife or snapping at their kids or whatever. You know, my dad can get very snappy. And I know it's because he's stressed out, but you know, my little brother who's 16, he doesn't understand that. So like sometimes I'm like, Dad, just chill, man. It's okay. You know, like I get it, like you're stressed, but deep breath.
And again, it's going back and setting boundaries, setting routines, and giving yourself
and just putting yourself into, like, your wife, for example, her position, she probably would have just been doing that to make you happy, you know what I mean, to try and make you happy, because I know how, you know, I know especially nice women, that's how they think. You know, they like, that's their natural, women are natural caregivers. They just want you to be happy. So from her perspective, she was probably just thinking, well, maybe if I get him out of the house and we take a little trip or go see his parents or whatever, maybe that'll like brighten his mood a little bit. And then so just if you can kind of think of it from that perspective a little bit, then you can take a step back and be like, I was just kind of an ass, and she was just trying to be nice. And it just it's like a little bit of a shake, like a little shake you up a little bit, you know, kind of like, you know, taking somebody and like shaking them to get them to, you know, just being able to.
That's exactly it. And the thinking back to what I used to be like, the guilt I feel is but now I use that as my driving force and my energy to go forward, to not let myself get into those positions again. And
exactly, so the guilt doesn't build, and then that guilt doesn't turn to resentment. That's such a you know, you resent yourself, but sometimes resentment comes out in all kinds of ways where you would take that out on her or the kids or your family or your friends. And
it was that I was horrible. there's no other way of saying it. I was horrible. And
but we all go through that, you know, in some way, shape, or form.
I was fortunate enough that Louise understood and realized she made that choice to shake things up, and it's the best thing she ever did. And now she just gets bombarded with ideas, and I'm like, right, you need to do this for me, you need to do that. So
but it's probably good to see like some fire back in, you know, like where you're not just so defeated all the time.
And I'm not leaving that. I'm not out the house for 16 hours a day. I'm out the house for a sensible amount of time. And I'm understanding how much I have in my life. And like we were talking about money before and things like that, that I now do work not to buy me material things. And I don't mean that in the sense to be flash and show off. I mean in the sense that the money I earn now buys me time and gives me freedom to go and do what I want to do. And if that means not going out for a meal one week, but that allows me to work a little bit less, I'm pretty happy to make that sacrifice now.
I think it's just figuring out what you want out of life and then being content when you have it, and not you know, like I know the things I want to do in life, and I do have to make a certain amount of money to do that. I want to travel and things like travel is important to me, so I want to be able to have the freedom to go do that, but unfortunately it costs money, so you you got to do like, but that's okay. Like it's okay to have those desires, and you know, life's too short to not try and chase those things, but it's not getting consumed by it, I think. Which
absolutely
it happens, you know.
You can have all the big house, the flash cars, the watches, you can have all that, but you got to understand what you've got to sacrifice
to get it.
And that's it.
Sure.
And if you understand that and you're willing to do that, then absolutely go out and achieve it,
and not comparing yourselves to other people. That's so important, I think, because especially in the world of social media, it's such an easy habit to, well, they get to do it and they don't seem to work that much, or they have this and I don't, but everybody's circumstances are different, and unfortunately some of us are just dealt an easier hand than you know, and it's it's a sucky reality of life, but not getting caught up in comparing, because there's always going to be somebody that seems to have more.
And I think
it's all very fake. Social media is very fake too, so you might be stressing about thinking about someone who just went and stood in front of somebody else's Ferrari or something.
You never know, do you? And I think the journey is just as important as the end goal, whatever your end goal is.
For sure.
Getting there, if you have a goal to achieve, whatever it might be, and on day 10 you achieve it, you won't realize how special it is to get to that point, because it happened overnight. And it's important to realize that as well, that you do have these ups and downs in life, but they're all part of the journey to get to wherever your goal is. And then when you do get to that, it makes you realize how special it is, and it's not a given, and it's not easy, and it's not, you've had to fight to get to that point, and the fight was worth it.
And that you know, that's actually, when we talk about mental health too, it just reminded me of the same conversation I was having last night. He said to me, well, so and so, you know, did therapy and it didn't help, or they didn't finish, or that whatever. And I'm like, run your race. Don't worry about him. Don't worry about her. Run your race. Your life is 100% different than theirs is. Your goals are different. Your hopes and dreams are different. You have to focus on what you're doing. You know, stop worrying about everybody else.
And that took me a while to realize that as well. And once I did, in fact, I had a conversation with somebody today about, they said they wanted to speak about suicide, because a few years ago they had attempted on their life, and luckily now they are in very good place. They are understanding, and they are over that part of their life. And he said, I don't want to talk. I don't know whether I should talk about it, because will it affect my employment status? Will it affect people wanting to do work with me? And I said to him, I said, if people do bring that up and use it against you, are they really the people you want to be working with?
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true.
My word to him, I said, do it. If you're comfortable to tell your story and do what you want to do with that part of your life, and get that out there for people that are that could be at that stage of their life, you could save lives with that. If you might not get a certain job, I said to him, you know what, fuck them. I said, because they're obviously not your people. They're not the right people you should be working with and being involved with. And he was like, yeah, you know what, you're right. I said, just march to the beat of your own drum, exactly like what you said. Run your own race.
You know how many times I've asked myself that question just this summer? Are these the people you want to be associated with? Do they share the same values that you do, the same hopes for the goal, the cause, whatever? And pretty much if the answer is no, I'm just like, okay, time to move on. And and that was a lesson that like Chris taught me a lot in business and like in my personal life. He was always so confident to walk away from a meeting knowing that it wasn't going to go anywhere. Like he could have stayed and beat his head against the wall, and just in hopes of maybe making some money out of it. And he's just like, their idea of business and things don't align with mine. And I've been at this too long to sell myself short. And it just was like, wow, that's pretty profound. He's way more confident than I am, but I'm slowly getting to that point. And he would say that a lot in my like, because Chris will come spend the holidays and stuff with us, and my brother comes home and he just goes and does his own thing, and it like he'll go and see all his friends and everything. And my family gets really mad that he doesn't like make time for them. And I can't remember what I said the one day. I was like, man, that doesn't seem to bother my brother at all. I said this to Chris, and he goes, because your brother just runs his own race. He just doesn't like. Now, I don't necessarily agree with my brother all the time, but he's just not like, he's happy. He's just like happy to go do the things he wants to do. And he doesn't really care if like he'll go to Christmas and everybody complains at him the whole time about, whatever. Chris is like, your brother just runs his own race. He doesn't stress about it. He's like, well, you'll go around and kind of try to please everybody. Yeah. Like your brother just doesn't do that. And I'm just like, well, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And if people realize that, and like I think the world would change quite differently.
Yeah.
And people
not being selfish, but
no
doing what makes you happy. Yeah, just doing what makes you happy. And if you're happy, the people that love you are going to be happy about that. So
yeah, and people will know that he's not. They're not doing it to be spiteful. They're not doing it to wind you up. They're doing it because it's them. They're just doing them, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can wish all you want that people had different priorities than what they have, but they just don't. Some people just don't. Like you're not gonna be on the same page with everybody.
No, and that's okay. That's a very good point. That actually, you're not on the same page as something. Everybody has a different view on something. We could go into a movie theater and watch a film, and there could be 100 people in there. We all watch the same film. We'll all come out with a different opinion of what we saw. We've all sat and looked at the same thing. And that's because everybody's different, and everybody picks up different things. And something might have resonated with me in that film, but not with you, and so on and so forth. And as soon as people realize that, the better.
Well, even the world right now, everybody has so many different opinions on everything. And
I know.
You just never know. Like walking into a room of people, you're like, are they going to think like I think? Are they going to like, and then they completely surprise you and they have a completely different view altogether. Yeah. And you're like, wow, that's interesting. I like hearing, well, I don't really like hearing everybody right now because everybody's screaming really loud about what they think. I just wish everybody would get to the point where they would just go do what they want to do and leave other people out of it. But it's still interesting for me sometimes to listen to people and then how they got to that point. You know, what makes them think the way they think. It's just the beauty of humans.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we're all different. We're all individual, but we all come together as one.
We should.
So I guess that seems like a good point to wrap up there, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
That was another good episode that I think we've had there. There's lots of different directions we went on, but
that's our style though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's again just marching to the beat of our own drum and just talking about whatever comes to mind.
I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. So thank you very much, Rob.
No, thank you. Thank you for doing these with me.
My pleasure.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends. Also, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss any of our new episodes. We always love hearing from you guys, so if you have any topics you'd like us to discuss or just anything you'd like to add, leave a comment and we'll be happy to share our thoughts. Once again, thank you for watching, and I truly hope this added some value to your construction world.